need to get some of those disc jockey big ones.
I don't know, the only thing I don't like is the rattle. All right, hey, we're going to talk about confusion for us, confusion for prospects, clients. Cousin Charlie, pick a number between 1 and 25,000.
15.7.
15.7. Was that hard for you to make that decision?
No.
Okay, well that didn't work worth a damn. I think whenever you present too many variables to people,
It gets hard.
it gets confusing. So like if we had this funnel of things where we're giving people. Okay. If we've got a funnel, that looks better, doesn't it? Okay. So we've got a transaction that begins with a greeting, and it closes at a closing. You understand what I'm saying? So during the initial greeting from here to here, there is a dash of confusion. In our mind, we know it's confused. In our mind, we know it's going to be challenging. But what I am finding is people after a greeting, they don't, it's like every step they come to, every door they open, they don't know what's behind each door. You know, every time they go here, get through it, then they go here, you know, they don't know what to expect. Are you following what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yep.
So if we could somehow say, look, right here, we're going to open up this door and we're going to show you exactly what this is going to look like. Anytime you can give people certainty, certainty means they just have enough confidence to make decisions. So if I'm giving you many options, we feel like, I think most salespeople in the past have thought, hey, let's give them options. See, I think what we need to do is kind of protect them more by saying, hey, let's get very specific on what you think you're going to want. Let's get very specific on how you want this to look. How specific do you feel like we get with people? Or do you feel like we deal with it by doors, while we get here, then we tell them?
I think it's a combination of both.
Okay. What do you think?
I think it is a combination of both.
Okay. What do you think would look better? If we could take what we're doing now and then put it into a perfect storm, or make it a perfect scenario, a perfect situation, what would it look like?
Well, I think you've got to first thing to do is what we did yesterday. You've got to build trust with the person, so they're just not throwing stuff out there. They're shooting straight with you to say, hey, this is exactly what we want. You know, the couple we met with yesterday, he made it real clear. She's the one that's making decisions. She's the one that takes care of stuff. She does stuff. So we know exactly she's the one we're really going to deal with in making decisions.
Okay.
So once you realize who's the decision maker and who's doing that, you know kind of in a way who to focus and find out their needs the most.
All right. Well, if we wanted to define a sales process, okay, if we wanted to define a systematic sales process of how we start, then it circles around to closing. We meet and then we close. And do you understand what I'm saying by close? That means we're sitting at the closing.
Right.
So what is the first step that needs to be done in the, you greet, you meet, what is the first thing we should do?
Should go over every document they are signing for clarity.
So what should we call that?
Well, I think you're...
Now hold up. This is also before we have entered any type of a transaction. This is before.
Okay, before?
You know, let's just say I'm just meeting you, Cousin Charlie. You want to buy or sell a house. What should be the first things that we should do?
I think we should go straight to what our EOS is and say, hey, I believe when you're dealing with somebody you know, like, and trust, you're going to make a better decision. Do you believe the same thing?
Okay.
Well, yes, I do. And that initially right there is going to start building trust in that
Okay.
you're both on the same page. Because if I'm dealing with somebody that says, man, I don't care about any of that, well, everything else, if I'm building a system, is going to be out of place.
All right. So now we explain what we do.
Okay.
What would be the next step?
Then you just go to clarity on what the process is going to look like and go ahead of time and let them know it is emotional.
I'm just going to say what to expect. Process. Okay.
We need to do a book, What to Expect When Buying, like the What to Expect When Pregnant.
Okay. Hey, you following all this in here? Okay, so we've met, we've explained what we do, how we can help them. Now we're going to explain the process. What would you say is next?
I think it's a back and forth discussion of they're telling you things of maybe about themselves.
We'll call this, let's qualify.
Yeah.
And what I mean by qualify is not necessarily qualify wants, needs, pre-approval process.
Well, and each of these things are actually segmenting to the other. Because when you're telling them the process, as you go through, you can say, hey, one of the things is also a local lender.
Got a little brainstorm.
When you go local lender, you can go into pre-approval process, qualify, wants and needs.
Okay.
So you can segment into each other where it's a good flow.
Okay. So if we're going through, see what we want to do with this sales process is make it simple and duplicatable to
Right.
where this is what we always do. Okay. At what point should we, in here in this process, this needs to probably also explain the team.
Yes.
Yes. It's almost like an introduction. Like, this is Lisa, closing coordinator. She does all this. You'll get to know her more.
Okay.
It's a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Assembly line.
Because then when it does go under contract, they already know who I am.
That's right. That's
And so they're already comfortable with who I am.
Okay, so now going through all this, see, I think now we've got to go into a follow-up system. What do you think we're doing after this? We've met, we've gone through everything. I think the next step is we need to have some type of a follow-up. And I'm just using based off yesterday. We met those people. I think we need to have a follow-up system. And here's what I am really seeing that's very important in the follow-up, and this is where it gets inconvenient for us. I think technology, innovation, all that stuff, we're allowing them to look at houses on the computer. We need to get people inside houses. That's where they really get excited. That's also where relationships build. See, think about this digital age where you're calling. Have you seen anything you like? Have you seen anything that you like? Hey, won't you look at this one? What we really need to do is get deeper into these people.
Yes.
So we follow up, and then let's just say we're in the actual performing of what we do. That could be helping sell, performance. Okay? Then after we perform, after we either get their house listed or we're out there looking, I think here's where we gotta start closing. We gotta, somewhere in this process, we need to put a close in here to where we get them to use us. Because we don't ask for that agreement. Who are you talking to?
Does somebody got a home inspection right now? Just
See, you're doing too many things right now. So performance, what do we do after this? Or should we add something in our sales cycle? Because what we want these people to think when they want this very simple.
Well, you should always be closing.
Yeah.
Every step.
Yeah,
Like when you kind of announce your EOS, if they agree, that's already kind of like a close.
right.
And that moves you to the next step.
That's good. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Always be putting in their head, do you feel comfortable?
It's almost like your little diagram with the doors. Every door needs to be shut after they walk through it. They should never have to go to the performance and go through and ask questions if we
That's
didn't
right.
we have clarity to begin
Well,
with.
you should, like you say, almost, hey, are you good with this? Or
Yeah.
you understand?
Yes.
And once they say yes,
Everything-
you go through.
Everything we've gone through so far, are you 100% clear?
Right. And if they're not, then you don't go through. You need to go over it again.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if they don't agree with the same thing in the EOS, we're going to have trouble. It may not come till performance, but we're going to have trouble somewhere along the way.
And if they don't get the clarity here, you can Google it and get it from another agent.
That's right.
Right.
I'm going to come back
And then
contract.
if they're not feeling like we've taken care of them the whole process, you're not getting referrals.
So after contract, this is where we need to be doing something from contract to close. The agents need to be doing some type of I don't know what to call this. What would we call that? After it's under contract, and the agent needs to be doing this instead of letting Lisa. Because what happens is they forget us for 30 days. I mean, that's, once they go under contract, the agent, a lot of times this might go so fast, this could be a day. This could be, you meet somebody, you're under contract. Think about how fast these cycles could be. So what should we do after, I'm going to call this a client review, where we're checking in, we're asking how a client review. But like Kathleen said, during this whole time, you are always closing and asking referrals through this whole process. That should be just our agreement that we're always doing. And if we could make this where we do it just like this every single time, we don't greet and then perform. Hey, before we do this, I need to go over a few things with you. See, if we start skipping these steps, the first thing that happens when you don't follow a process is the clients are confused.
Yeah.
They're confused, they're uncertain. And I'll say this about Katrina. Katrina, if you had this many options, she's pushy, she's going to eliminate and just give you this. And that's why she can sell. Would you agree?
Yeah.
She'll take away everything. People might think she's pushy, but she helps you make a decision. See, our job, we think, is to allow them to make a decision. But what we've got to do is get better at challenging them to make the decision, because if we're just too laid back, people feel like we're not the expert. Go ahead, Chris, Charlie.
I agree with you, but I disagree with
Well,
you.
what do you disagree with?
If I'm just trying to push something on somebody, I've got to get to know them so I can give them the best solution. Not just say, for instance, hey, you know what? This is the house you need because you need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And that's the only one that's out there. I've got to make sure I'm getting them the 3-bedroom, 2-bath that meets their needs. Or this is the best solution for somebody to buy your house based on their needs. And then get it down to where, take all the other 5 out. But if I'm just saying, hey, you know what? You need to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. This one over here is the right one. You know what? If it has no backyard and they've got 4 dogs.
Okay, but what if I say that and say, hey, do you agree 100% with what I just said?
Say that again.
If I just said what you said to a client, say, hey, I hate to say this, but this is what I believe, then I put it at the end of it. Do you agree 100% with what I said? What would you say as the client? You're the client.
Right. And if you say all this,
No, I said what you just said. If I take your words that you just said
Right.
to the client and then I put in there, do you agree 100% with what I just said?
not following you.
Do you follow
Yeah,
me?
I think what he's saying is we don't just say, oh, here's the one we think is the best for you. We still give them they
Yeah.
still have to have
You
options.
agree 100% with what I
but-
just said.
Right.
What would you say?
Well, what I'm saying is, it's not every customer's not going to be the same one. So, for instance, every family that has no kids doesn't need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Over in, Case and Lane.
Yeah, but Charlie, during the process, I qualified and I found out what they wanted. They told me right over here.
Right.
They told me I wanted blah, blah, blah. Now we're over here in the performance, and I tell them,
Right.
hey, you told me you wanted this. This has exactly everything that you want.
But this is where, if they told me over here, we want to spend $250 on a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but I say, you know what?
Well, give me your wants, and we'll write it down.
Right.
You're
Hey,
the customer.
Yeah, I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I'd like to keep it $250. We want to be in a good school zone. We've got a couple dogs, so I need a good sized backyard.
Okay. There's a lot of things that you're saying that we've got to do a much better job on qualifying right here. Exactly what school zone do you want to be?
I want to be in Siegel.
All right. Cousin Charlie, if we find your dream house at $275,000, would you be prepared to go to that price?
No,
Okay. Would you be prepared to go $1 over $250,000?
no, 250's our max.
That's your max. Okay. 3 and 2, we should be able to get that. Now let's fast forward. Tell me what we're looking at right here.
Okay, and this is what I'm saying, is we get over here in the performance.
Yep.
If I can, even though they say 250 is the highest they want to go,
Yep.
if I can find everything they're wanting,
Yep.
I think I can. And I used to not do this, but you taught me to. If I can get them in a house a few dollars higher, if they're pre-approved, they just don't want to.
But
You can get them to go up.
Let's play along with what you're saying. We're
Right.
role playing here. You've told me everything that you want. Now we're looking. Give me the
Right.
scenario where you didn't agree with what I was saying. So now we're over here in this part of the process.
Right. Well, as we get over here, you're saying you've got to eliminate all the options
Yes.
except for one.
That's right. That's right.
Why are you saying eliminate all the options except for
Because
one?
it's hard for them to make decisions when they have so many options out there. That's our job, is to help present something to where they can come to a decision. Okay, so now give me the scenario.
Right.
Okay,
But are we talking about buying or
we're
selling?
talking about buying. He's talking about buying.
Okay.
Okay. I was talking more about selling.
Well, you're giving me
But-
the criteria right here.
Right.
That's what I thought.
And you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
So which way do you want to do it?
Well, I mean, you can do it with either, but what I'm saying is if I don't know the people good enough,
We've already gone through this. We got to get to that's a given. We've already gone through EOS, what to expect, qualify. We've gone through this. See, we can't skip these.
right, no, I know you can't skip them.
So let's play your scenario. 'Cause
Right.
I'm gonna tell you.
Okay.
Give me you're buying a house.
Right, I want
This
a
is
3-bedroom, 2-bath.
$250. I've already
Yeah,
pre-qualified.
and maybe the price and all that doesn't match, but as you go through Siegel School Zone,
Okay.
I need a good sized yard, got a couple dogs.
Yep. Okay. Now we've been out here looking. Let's
Okay.
say we've got 5. We've looked at 4 houses.
Right.
Okay. We looked at 4 houses. Cousin Charlie, out of the 4 houses that we've looked at, could you see yourself living in one of the houses? You and your
Yeah,
family.
I could see one of them.
Does one of them stand out?
Yeah, it stands out.
Okay, which house was that?
House number 2.
House number 2. Okay, out of all the data we know about this house, is there anything that would stop you from buying that house?
It's okay.
Okay,
You know,
well,
I'm not gung ho 100% on it,
okay.
but
Well,
it's got a couple of things.
have
to
you
like.
seen enough to make a decision on moving forward with an offer?
No.
Okay, what do you think you would need to see to have more clarity on making an offer on a house?
I need to find something that's more what we're looking for. The layouts aren't right. These are a little too small, the rooms. I need a little bit bigger backyard for my dogs.
Okay, so out of everything that you just said, what was the one thing that would cause you not to buy the house?
Well, it's not one, there's several
Well,
things.
if that house was $175,000 instead of $250,000, would you have bought it?
No, I need these things. I'm not going to settle for something
Okay.
that is not what I want.
Okay. Well, I don't want you to settle. But
Right.
you're telling me out of the 4 houses that you looked at, none of them is what you want.
Right,
All right. Well, see, we eliminated them.
right.
Now we're done with them. Okay. So moving forward, let's get exactly sure on everything that you look at, because it's my fault if I show you something that is not something you think you should buy.
Right.
If I'm just out there showing you houses without it really being pre-qualified of what you're looking for,
Right.
who's doing the disservice?
Well,
Because here's what I see. I see you telling me 250, and we're out here looking at $285,000 houses.
right. Well, and what I'm saying, and maybe I'm not saying this right, as we go through these things, my expectation from what I'm seeing here in the market is 250 is going to get me a lot more than it's not.
Whose fault is that?
I think there's two. I mean, as an agent, am I not setting the expectation right? But also, I think people with our market, their expectation of what they can get is not as much as it was years
The only
ago.
way this stuff works is if the salesperson takes 100% responsibility
Right.
in everything. So if I've allowed you to believe that you can get more for 250, whose fault is that? Who's controlling this emotional roller coaster?
But let me ask you, sometimes you can tell me in the office all day, but once you take me to a house and I see what a $250,000 house is, I think I may be willing to spend more money.
Okay. All right. Well,
I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah.
What my thought
Yeah.
process is? Because yesterday,
okay, well, hold up. Now, Cousin Charlie, you told me under no situation, under no circumstances would we go above $250,000. Have you changed that opinion?
now that I've seen some properties, I have.
Okay, well, how much higher do you want to raise this?
You know, probably 20, 30,000 more. I'd like to
Okay.
see what that much more we'll get.
Now, have you been looking online at anything $20,000 or $30,000 more?
Yeah, I have been.
Okay. Have you seen anything you think you'd like more?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some little bit nicer houses.
Okay.
But until I, like I say, I'm going to use Katie as an example yesterday. She looked at a house over Reese Rogers' older part of town.
Yep.
And then once I brought up Puckett Station, all of a sudden her budget jumped up to maybe we might can do upper 2s to near 3.
But see, all that stuff is done in here. It ain't done here. Once we get over here, this part right here is where we're doing all of our homework. This is where we're getting all of our data to use to close.
You don't think if someone says here and you can show them a bigger house or more that they want in this house, even though they say 250's their line in the sand, they won't go up.
Man, you gotta hammer all this stuff out right here, because by the time it gets over here, they're confused. That's why this stuff right here is so important.
I'm not saying it's not important, but you don't think if they're not 100% on board, you can't say, well, see,
I'm
we can
getting the
get
people to make their decision over here. Then we get over here and we find them the house.
you. Right.
Does that make sense? You see what I'm saying? I've already gotten your agreement. Hey, would you go above 250?
No.
Okay.
But since they changed their mind, maybe then the process starts back again.
Right.
At, hey, let's go.
Yeah,
over
That's
here.
what I'm saying.
That could be, but you've got to keep asking these questions
Right.
that are isolating and they're very in your face.
I don't
They're
think I don't think people know, because I mean I'm learning as I go through this whole thing, but I think you'll get people say we don't want to spend more than 250, because I've had 2 or 3 that said no, we don't want to spend this,
Okay, under any circumstances, could you see yourself going above
and
250?
they'll say no.
If
But
you
then
found your dream house for $271,000, would you do it?
we just can't afford more. But once you get them in the house, it's the same thing as car salesmen. They put you in the car, you
Okay,
have a
but
higher
see,
chance of buying.
we're not done. So, is there any way you would go above $250,000?
I know we can't afford more.
So, if I found you the house that you want and it's $48 more a month, would you not consider it?
It'd be tough.
Well, does that mean that you would do it or you wouldn't?
It'd have to be the dream house. with
Because
everything
part of
we
my
want.
job is to protect you from your own emotions. So, are you giving me permission to go above your price or not?
Yes, but only for the dream house. Just don't throw the other
See,
houses at.
you got to understand how powerful agreement is.
Right.
If I can get you to agree before, it's a whole lot easier to get over. Here's where all the legwork is done. Am I?
It was that one simple thing. My job is to protect you from your emotions. Because see, we're gonna lie to you, and so regardless, you don't show us above what we don't wanna.
Yeah.
But it was that one thing that you.
But it's saying you gotta understand the salesperson has got to be in control.
Right.
Because these people don't know, like what you're saying.
I mean, I've come to, in my short time with dealing with people, I've come to believe if they tell you 250 is their line in the sand and they won't go a dollar higher, you can get a 275 for the right house.
But let me ask you this.
Even though
how many questions do you probe and dig deeper and ask them?
I'll try to dig with me. Are you absolutely sure you can't go this? Yes. But then for the right house, hey, this one has this many more square foot. Once you get them inside of the house, I've realized it's had an effect that in conversation
it does.
that they don't realize.
But here's what I'm trying to tell you, is we've got to be in control with our questions and present scenarios. We don't tell them what to do, we present the scenario. It's kind of like if we were doing a maze, you know, and whatever it looked like, we could get you out of it. See, the way I do it is I ask a question that I know it's going to steer you this way. And then I'm going to ask you a question I know it's going to steer you that way. See, what most salespeople do is they tell you what to do. Whenever I'm saying, I got to give you information that gets you to where I think you're going to go. Does that make sense? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, so we need to have all of these questions so when we go to actually put them in homes to see, we can give them a different price range even over before we even go, because they already know that that's a possibility they might have to go over. Is that what you're saying?
Well, here's the way we do this. We do it the same way every single time, where we listen, acknowledge, isolate, validate, probe.
Right.
It's just the way we handle all of this stuff. Right here is where, this is where I have found I get them to make their decision.
Yeah.
I just haven't shown them what they're going to do yet.
Okay.
Because right here is where I really give people the most clarity.
Right.
And in their mind, now they know, well, you know what? We said we're going to be at 250, but after talking with him, we'll go to 275. What we're battling is people's emotions.
Right.
And if they're hell bent, if they're telling you, no, we won't go above 250, okay, it's kind of an agreement they've made with themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
So now you're getting them to open up. What if I were to show you something that just totally blew your mind and it was $24,000 more dollars? Would you consider it?
And I think if you explain it's not $24,000 more a month, it's only this much more a month. That helps too.
You've got to break it down to the ridiculous of this house isn't $25,000 more, even though you said you want to spend $250 and it's $275. This is $16 more a month.
Yes.
You know what? $16 more a month. I spend that in food I waste. I don't even eat. You know what, man? I can spend $16 more a month. Man, I can spend $20 more a month.
Well, here's what I'm trying to get y'all to learn. Whenever you walk away from somebody, do they know exactly? Are they very clear on where they are? Are they very clear on what you told them? Because what I'm finding after going back and talking to some people, they're not as clear as what y'all think.
Well,
So you probably see this too. You probably see it the most when you think you've told somebody something and they're talking to Lisa and they're sitting there and they're telling on y'all.
Well,
They don't even know they're telling on you.
And I'm getting this from you, Tommy. You've told me in the past, well, you know what? They say 250. You need to go show them a 275.
Yep.
And I've realized from talking to people
No. I'm not saying go show them. Don't be surprised if they'll go out and buy it, because they will lie. But here's what I'm telling you. Here's where you overcome that. I'm trying to help you get ahead of this to where you're in here talking and you're presenting these ideas, and then they go cold on you and they go buy somebody else for $291,000.
I see what you're saying, but I disagree with you on.
Well,
you had no. I was riding with you. You had that morning not said anything about, I'm going to go buy a brand new car today. But we were in the car lot.
Yep.
At the same time, your car gave a jerk.
Yep.
Hey, let's go look at these cars over here.
That's right.
So it's things happening. If we were just riding down Broad Street and it happened, would you have bought a car that night?
Probably not.
That's my point. If I can get somebody knowing, hey, they're the border, they say they don't want to spend it, But if I can take them to a $275,000 house, that's more they want to spend.
But
Break it down to the
knowing-
ridiculous.
But knowing that that's what they want. That's
Right.
the key.
Okay,
And
how
no-
many people, Cousin Charlie, how many people do you think you're working with right now that you've shown them more than 7 or 8 houses?
I haven't shown anybody more than 7 or 8 that I'm working with.
Okay. See, if we're showing more than 7 or 8 houses, there's something we're not doing right.
Right. No, and I understand that.
But let me ask you this, how many people are you actually showing houses to?
4.
Okay, see, that number needs to be like 40. We need, that's,
Oh, it needs to be like 100.
well, the reason why we're not doing this is how many people are you talking to?
I don't know, there's several.
Okay.
15,
well,
20.
well, see, the reason why is we're not doing something in here to where they feel certain, unless they're just not ready yet. I mean, they might not be ready. Those people that you're talking to, how many? You said there's several. How many of them are ready to make a decision within the next 3 months?
6 or 7 of them.
Why have they not been looking at houses?
They're looking at them online.
Okay, well, we got to get them out and show them. We got to get them in here and because that's where they get excited. There's a
agree.
reason why they're not looking. There's a reason because I don't think they're as ready as what you think. Have you asked them right now, between now and the next 3 months, how bad do you think you're
Yeah.
gonna? How much do you want a house on a scale from 0 to 10?
Yeah.
And I think what you'll find out is right now they're at a 2. Tomorrow they might be at an 8.
Well, yeah, and that they can be at a 2, and then the right house comes on the market, and they're at an 8 from morning till night.
Well, we've got to do a much better job of doing some type of a sales process.
No, and I
Because-
agree with it, but I just think as you're going through, if I show them 4 houses and they don't find one, they're 100% love. If I can say, hey, you know what? I know this is out of your price range. You said you had under no reason want to spend over $250, and I take you to a $265, a $270. I think after they've seen the rejection in our market, they're more willing to spend $16 a month.
Okay, well, see, I think you've got to say a little bit more than that. I would, before I go show them, I would probably just say, look, I want to show you this house. You told me to protect you against your emotions, but if you fall in love with this house, would you be willing to commit to $16 more a month right now?
Right.
Because I don't want to show you this house unless you'd be willing to do that. We can go ahead and wrap up. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
There's
and
something.
I'm not trying to argue with
No,
you.
I don't know. You're just